Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Chatter Up with me, Alex. Alright, so we're just going to go ahead and dive right into today's episode. And in today's episode, we are going to be continuing the reviews of all 30 teams and their off seasons. In today's team, we're going over the Detroit Tigers. And we're going to take a look at their trades, any of their signings, and then predict what their opening day roster could look like for this season. Alright, so with that being said, let's step right into the Chatters box. Alright, so we're going to go over their 2020 regular season a little bit before we get into it. So for their record of last year, they were 23-35, which had them last in the division in the AL Central and 28th in the MLB. For their hitting, they were 23rd in runs with 249, 15th in average with 245, 20th in slugging percentage with 397, 25th in OPS with 700. They were tied for third in triples with 12, tied for 23rd in home runs with 62, 23rd in RBIs with 242, and then they struck out 567 times and walked only 147. So definitely not the greatest. Pitching, they were last in ERA with a 5.63. Tied 24th in saves. They were 11 for 20 or for 19. They had the fourth most home runs given up with 91. They were 29th in strikeouts with 44. They gave up the 19th most walks with 192. They were 26th in batting average against with 265 and 23rd in whip with a 1.43. So their pitching, their ERA wasn't the greatest, but the rest wasn't too terrible. Wasn't too great either. So let's get into some standout players, some top debuts from last year. I have 3 players listed here. The first one being Willie Castro. I think he played shortstop mainly for them last year. He batted a 349, which led the team. He had a 381 on base percentage, which was second on the team. And he also led the team in OPS with a 932. He was fourth on the team with 6 home runs, 24 RBIs, which was third, and that was in 36 games. So not bad. Definitely one of their top offensive guys. We'll like to see how he does this year. Next, we got Jeimer Candelario. He was pretty decent for them last year as well. He batted a 297 with a 369 on base percentage, and then 872 OPS. All of those ranked third on the team overall. He was second on the team in hits with 55. He had 11 doubles and 3 triples, which both led the team. He was third on the team in home runs, second on the team in RBIs, with 7 home runs and 29 RBIs. And that was in 52 out of their 58 games that they played, which I still don't understand how they played 58 games, but that's beside the point. And then lastly, I have here is Miguel Cabrera. He didn't have his best year on the average side, but still a pretty solid year for him. He batted a 250 with a 329 on base percentage and a 746 OPS. He was third on the team in hits with 51, and he led the team in home runs and RBIs with 10 home runs and 35 RBIs. And he played in 57 of the 58 games, which I did not realize he played in that many games last year, so that's pretty impressive for him based on his past few seasons. Alright, so let's just go ahead and jump into their offseason, some key offseason subtractions that they had. I have 4 listed here personally. The first one being Austin Romine, their starting catcher from last year. He signed with the Cubs. Last year for them, he went for an average of 238 with 2 home runs and 17 RBIs in 37 games. So not too big of a loss there, really. But he's a very good defensive catcher. Next, we got right-handed pitcher Ivan Nova. He signed a minor league contract with the Phillies. They also lost right-handed pitcher Jordan Montgomery on a minor league contract to the Brewers. And then they also lost their first baseman C.J. Cron on a minor league contract to the Rockies. Those 3 weren't really big losses either. They didn't have their best years last year, but they didn't really lose anyone else besides that. Alright, so now let's get into their key offseason additions that they had. They had quite a few decent ones. for them anyway. So let's get right into those. The first one I have listed here is a right-handed pitcher, Jose Urena. He signed a 1-year deal with them, coming over from the Marlins. We'll talk about him a little bit later. They signed outfielder Robbie Grossman. I think he came over from the Oakland A's. They reunited on a 2-year deal. They were actually able to get replace Austin Romine with Wilson Ramos on a 1-year deal, so that's pretty good for them. He's a good. I think he's decent defensively, but he's definitely a better bat than Romine. They were able to re-sign Jonathan Scope, their second baseman, which is huge for them. Last year he batted .278, 324 on base, and a .799 OPS. He was second on the team for the Tigers with 8 home runs, and fourth with 23 RBIs in 44 games. So definitely another key offensive player for them. Next, they got first baseman Renato Nunez. Sorry about that. They got him on a minor league contract. He was coming over from the Orioles, and we've already talked about him in our past video. Decent, low risk, high reward signing for them. They also got outfielder Nomar Mazara, who is a good left-handed bat. Signed him to a 1-year deal. And then last but not least, I got listed here as a right-handed pitcher Julio Teheran. They got him on a minor league contract as well, and we'll talk about him a little bit later. Alright, so let's get into the potential opening day lineup, or maybe not opening day, but maybe their everyday lineup for 2021. This is how I would do it anyway. If I were the Tigers, I would go leading off with Robbie Grossman playing left, batting second, Jonathan Scope playing second, batting third, Miguel Cabrera playing DH, fourth, Heimer Candelario playing third, fifth, Renato Nunez playing first, sixth, Willie Castro playing shortstop, seventh, Nomar Mazara playing right, eighth, Wilson Ramos catching, and then ninth, Jacoby Jones playing center field. So on paper, this is a pretty decent lineup. There's some players that have some pop in there. I don't think they have a lot of speed other than maybe Castro and Jones. I personally don't know. I don't really watch the Tigers that much, but we'll see how they do next year. Hopefully they can get some good production out of that lineup. All right, so let's get into their 2021 rotation options. I have 2 lefties and then 5 righties that I think they can put in their rotation this year at some point. The first one being Matthew Boyd. Last year for them, he went 3-7 with a 6.71 ERA, 60 strikeouts to 22 walks. He gave up 15 home runs, which is definitely not good. 278 batting average against, and then a 148 WHIP, and that was in 60 innings pitched. So definitely not his best year. He definitely had a slumping year compared to, I think, was it 2 seasons ago, maybe 3, where he had his breakout year. All right, next I got left-handed pitcher Tyreek Skubal. I think that's how you say his last name. He's the organization's number 5 prospect overall. He actually made his debut with them last year. He went 1-4 with a 5.63 ERA, 37 strikeouts to 11 walks. He gave up 9 home runs himself with a 235 batting average against and a 1.22 WHIP in 32 innings pitched. So it's not terrible. You need to get the ERA down, obviously. Home runs down. Other than that, not too bad. Next, I got another prospect for them, Casey Mize, who is a right-handed pitcher, the number 2 prospect overall. He also made his debut with them last year. Did not have a very solid year at all. He went 0-3 with a 6.99 ERA, 26 strikeouts to 13 walks. He gave up 7 home runs, 252 batting average against, and a 1.48 WHIP in a 28 1/3 innings pitched. Next I got listed here is Michael Fulmer, who is a right-handed pitcher. Last year for them, he went 0-2, 8.78 ERA, 20 strikeouts and 12 walks. He gave up 8 home runs, 3.75 batting average against, 2.06 WHIP in 27 2/3 innings pitched. So I definitely hope he has a bounce back year for them because they cannot have that kind of pitching in the rotation for them if they're trying to win some games. All right, the next I have listed here is personally I think their ace from last year is right-handed pitcher Spencer Turnbull. He went 4-4 with a 3.97 ERA, 51 strikeouts to 29 walks, 2.26 batting average against, and a 1.34 WHIP in 56 and two-thirds innings. So not bad. Next, I mentioned him before, was Jose Reina. He came over from the Marlins. Last year he was 0-3 with a 5.40 ERA, 15 strikeouts, 13 walks, 247 batting average against, a 1.50 WHIP, and 5 starts. And last but not least, again, we got Julio Teheran. Last year he went 0-4 with a 10.05 ERA, 20 strikeouts to 16 walks, 305 batting average against, and a 1.76 WHIP in 10 appearances. I think that was 9 starts and 1 relief appearance. So that was definitely not his best year either. So look for a lot of people in their rotation to hopefully have comeback years. All right, so moving on to their 2021 closer, they have announced already that is going to be right-handed pitcher Brian Garcia. Last year he went 2-1 for them with a 1.66 ERA. He was 4 for 6 in saves, 12 strikeouts to 10 walks. You definitely want to get those walks down for a closer, especially if you want him to be lights out. 222 batting average against, 1.29 WHIP, and 21 and two-thirds innings pitched. All right, excuse me. Oh, sorry. All right, so just a few more things to cover here for the Tigers. I got a few key players to watch this season for them, 4 to be exact. First one I have listed here is being Casey Mize, who we talked about earlier. I think definitely be on the lookout for a bounce back year from him after a shaky debut. Uh, I think he'll be definitely one of their top pitchers if he can get back in his groove. Next, I got Miguel Cabrera. Like I said earlier, he didn't have his best average year, but I have high hopes that he'll hit at least 300, if not better, this year. Also, this spring, be on the lookout for Akil Baddoo. He is a Rule 5 draft pick that the Tigers picked up in the offseason. He's been on absolute fire this spring, and he's making a good case for a roster and starter spot this year. And last but not least, I have listed here is Spencer Torkelson, who is their number 1 overall prospect in their system. He was also number 1 overall pick, in the 2020 draft last year. I don't think he'll make his debut till later in the year, but when he does, he'll definitely make an impact on that lineup. Alright, so now let's get into predicting the team MVP, team Cy Young, and the team Rookie of the Year. So for MVP, I think it's going to be Miguel Cabrera this year. Like I said, I think he's going to bat over 300, have around a 350 on-base percentage, and maybe an 800 OPS. I think he'll hit anywhere from 25 to 30 home runs, and have at a max, if not at least 100 home run or RBIs. Then for the Cy Young and for the Rookie of the Year, I have it both as Casey Mize. I think he's going to have a very solid year. I think he's going to go at least 13-11, a 3.35 ERA, maybe 180 to 200 strikeouts, and then anywhere to 80 to 100 walks. And I think he'll have a 1.3 WHIP. Predicting the team record and their placement for this year, I think they're going to be anywhere from a 60 to 70 win team. 70 definitely being the limit. But I do think they'll still finish last in the AL Central. On a grading scale, I would have to give their offseason a solid C. They filled their subtractions with definitely some low-risk, high-reward signings. And the roster is definitely headed in the right direction. I think I saw earlier that they have the number 2 farm system in MLB. So they have a lot of good, young, talented players bound to come up, make an immediate impact for the team. And having Miguel Cabrera there and a few of the other veterans in the clubhouse is going to be huge for them. However, like a lot of the recent teams that we've been reviewing, they're still a few years away from contending. Well, that's it for this episode, guys. And if you haven't already, don't forget to like, follow, and subscribe to the podcast. The links are all in the description below. Thanks for listening, and I'll catch you on the next episode of Chatter Up.